Petitions Committee meeting for 2020. It's been a while since this committee met. I'm Gillian Postman and I chair this standing committee, and I'd like to hand over to members now just to introduce themselves.
Member Regan Allen.
Good afternoon, Chair. It's Member Kaba, alternate to Member Khalid. May I also, Chair, indicate that Member Khalid will be late in this meeting. Thanks, Chair.
Ricardo Mackenzie, alternate.
Do we have anybody else that hasn't introduced themselves? Okay, Wasima, are there any apologies?
I've received no apologies from any of the members.
Okay, and Member Kama, I think you're a permanent member of this committee by now. If we look at your attendance versus Member Syed, it should be the other way around. I'm also now going to hand over to our colleagues from the WCPP to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm Sunal Fashir. I'm the Director for Public Engagement that deals with petitions for WCPP.
Thank you, Ms. Fashir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. My name is Temba Keso. I'm the Manager PEO at the WCPP.
Good afternoon, members. Ben Daza, Senior Procedural Officer for the Petitions Committee.
Anybody else?
Wasima Hassan Musa, Procedural Officer for the Petitions Committee.
Thank you very much, everybody, and welcome. Just in terms of the context for today's meeting, we are here to, on our agenda is we're going to be briefed by the Public Education and Outreach Unit on the petition received from Mr. Barry Jacobs from Mossel Bay. We're also going to consider and adopt our draft minutes for our last meeting on the 20th of September, and then consider and adopt our draft annual activity report, as well as our draft quarterly report, and then consider and adopt the draft committee program as well. I just want to note that Ms. Fashir is leaving us at 13:45 to attend another meeting. So with that, I'm going to hand over to the Public Education and Outreach Program. Mr. Kwesa is going to give us the salient elements of the petition that we've received. Mr. Kwesa, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to greet you, Mr. Chair. I greet all the other honorable members of the committee, and Ms. Fouchier, they're my director, and all the support staff that is in the meeting. Like I've said before, my name is Temba Keso. I'm the manager PEO, and one of our tasks at PEO is to process petitions. And today I'm here to present a petition that we have received from Mr. Barry Jacobs. Okay. Right. I can see that Wasima has shared the screen on the elements of what the petition is about. Thank you so much for that, Wasima. I'm just going to briefly summarize what the petition is about. I won't read everything that is on the screen. I'll just summarize so that everybody can be able to understand, because there's so much that has been written there on the document that is on the screen. But we received a petition from Mr. Barry Jacobs, who is part of the Horikwa Khoisan dynasty from Grootbrak Rivier in Mossel Bay on the 25th of February 2020. We contacted Mr. Jacobs telephonically to acknowledge the receipt of the petition and to explain to him how the petition process works at the WCPP. And every time we needed some more information regarding the petition, we would then contact him for further information. The petition is as follows. Mr. Jacobs, just before the 31st of December 1998, he lodged 10 different land claims to the Commission on Restitution of Land Rights in the Western Cape office for the dispossession of land that he was claiming with a group of people that he was working with. When we discussed with Mr. Jacobs, it became clear to us that his issue was not necessarily that the claims were not being processed, but he felt that due process was not followed in the petitions that had been rejected by the Commission. And he felt aggrieved by the manner that the Commission was handling the petition, the land claim that they had put forward. So based on the information that he had given us and all the documents that he had sent to us, because out of frustration, he had gone to the Public Protector's office, for example, looking for assistance there. He had also gone even to the municipality of Mossel Bay, trying to get assistance where he felt that due process was not being followed by the Commission. So when we got all the information from him, we then set out to find our own information in our own way in terms of the Act. And we contacted the Commission then for their side of the position. So on 10 March 2020, we then sent a letter to the Commission informing them about the complaint by Mr. Perry Jacobs, and they did respond to us on the 26th of March 2020. And they acknowledged that they were aware of Mr. Perry Jacobs, they were aware of his claim that he had put in front of them. They also felt that they had been dealing with Mr. Jacobs for a very, very long time, trying to explain how the process works. But somehow there was a breakdown of communication between their office and that of Mr. Perry Jacobs. They then sent us all the information that they've done regarding this particular land claim. They sent us a letter that they sent to Mr. Jacobs. If you can see on the attachment, there's a letter they sent to him on 29 May 2019. It's a variety of letters that they've sent to him, but I'm just highlighting that one. I'll come back to it. They also showed us the letter that they've sent to the Public Protector's office where Mr. Jacobs complained. And they sent us also a list of meetings dating back up to 2014, where they've been trying to update Mr. Jacobs and his committee on the process that the Commission have done regarding these particular issues. It became clear to us as we're dealing with this land claim that it seemed two land claims seemed to be the main issue. And one of them was the land claim regarding a place called Sowetia. And in that claim, it was rejected because the Commission felt that Mr. Jacobs had not met all the requirements in terms of the Restitution Act. What I need to explain here quickly, Mr. Chair, is because this claim by Mr. Jacobs is so complicated. We're talking 10 land claims that he put forward. We're talking people, over 50 people that he was working on behalf of. And a lot of documentation was needed by the Commission from them. A lot of meetings happened, and somehow in between all of that, like I'm saying, there was a breakdown of communication and some things were missed, resulting in some dissatisfaction, mostly from Mr. Perry Jacobs. If you look, for example, on the letter that I'm talking about, dating back 2014, the Commission have laid down there the process that they've gone through to try and assist Mr. Jacobs. There were meetings where Mr. Jacobs had to respond, for example, with some evidence or some history dating back as to why he was putting a claim in here, and he was asked to return back that information. And sometimes he failed. So if he failed to report back, then that particular claim would be invalid because the requirements were not met. So it's those kinds of things that we found regarding this particular claim. But just to make the long story short, two claims seemed to be a main issue and seemed to be the one that Mr. Jacobs is complaining about, and the one that the commission also feels they have not processed them. Like I'm saying, the first one is Sowetia, which Mr. Jacobs, the committee felt he has not responded quite well, therefore it didn't meet the requirements of the Act. And the second one was footpath. The footpath issue just shows how complicated this whole issue is. If I can just quickly come in there, Mr. Chair, when the commission receives these claims, there's a lot of process that goes through. The claims have to be researched, the claims have to be sent out in the newspapers. It takes years and years and years. Sometimes the members of people who are claiming get disgruntled, but the process is so long. For example, the claim here for Mr. Jacobs, he put the claim in 1998, but the correspondence that we're receiving is up until now, 2020. So you can imagine that long process in between. So a lot of things happening there and resulting in disgruntlement. For example, in this footpath one, the commission says they are still doing research on it to see that indeed it qualifies in terms of the Restitution Act. But this claim of footpath was put way back in 1998, and they're still trying to get research on it now in 2020, all these years. So it is those kinds of things that somehow cause unhappiness between the commission and the applicants of land that they are putting on the commission. So much so that on the letter that was written by the commission on 29 May 2019, the commission wrote to Mr. Jacobs informing him that if he was unhappy, then the next step that he could do was to go for a mediation between himself and the Commission for Land Restitution Rights, or he can even go to court to force the commission to assist him in the way that he feels he needs to be assisted. So that's where the issue is, Mr. Chair, now. It's mostly the lack of information, the length of time processing these claims by the commission that has led a lot of people to just feel despondent. The time is so long that most people now are feeling totally despondent. So based on what I've just explained, Mr. Chair, the recommendation that I've put forward on the committee for this particular petition is as follows. As you know, this petition includes all spheres of government. I mean, the commission, for example, reports to the national government. But notwithstanding that, we felt that it needs to come to this commission because the commission has dealt with issues such as this before that also included the offices that report to national government, but also because Mr. Jacobs himself is a resident of the Western Cape, and also because the jurisdiction, the claims of this petition are also based here in the Western Cape. But also because we felt that the commission, at the very least, through this committee of the Petitions Committee, can be able to explain to Mr. Jacobs as to the process, why it took so long. Like I'm saying, from 1998 is 2020 now, but some claims have not been processed, so that at least Mr. Jacobs can be in a position to get an explanation from the commission as to why there are still outstanding claims even up until now in 2020, and maybe the Petitions Committee can act as a rapport when that particular event does occur. So it meets all the requirements of our Act, this petition, and we feel that the committee needs to deliberate in it. We request the committee to deliberate in it, like I'm saying, based on the fact that it's in the Western Cape, jurisdiction is in the Western Cape, the complainant is also in the Western Cape, and also, Mr. Chair, because it is a petition that has a history. I mean, we all know the issue of land restitution is such an emotive issue, such a hot issue, so we couldn't just let it slide and say it doesn't conform with the Act just because it involves a commission that reports to the national government. I'm going to stop there, Mr. Chair. Maybe I can ask questions if there are people who need to know more on this particular petition. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kwesa. And you summarized that quite well, especially because there's a whole lot of documents attached to this petition as well. I'm now going to hand over for questions, members. I see Member Philander, you're noted. You can go ahead. And then Member Kama.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, my question would be on the non-submission of information as requested. The previous speaker made mention of Soweto, which were non-compliant in terms of the Restitution of Land Act. And apparently because of what I read in the documents is that at one stage, the claimants was asked to resubmit the claim, which they then refused to do so. And then also, Chairperson, footpath that they are awaiting the final research report. Now, I also note that 10 claims has been settled, and that also in the same documents that the Commission are awaiting response on Soweto. But also the report makes mention, Chairperson, that according to the Commission, only footpath is outstanding. So are we now dealing with Soweto as well as footpath, or will the Commission only consider footpath at this stage? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Member Kama.
Thank you very much, Chair. And let me also welcome that presentation. Chair, what I wanted to get an understanding is on the application to the public protector. I did not hear it being mentioned whether was it resolved, was it processed, that application, and what was the outcome therefore. Thank you.
Are there any other questions before I hand over to Mr. Kwesa? No? Mr. Kwesa, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Chair. If I'll start with the question about whether it's footpath or Soweto that needs the committee to deliberate on. When you look at the letter that was sent by the Commission, the letter was sent by the Commission. Sorry, 1 second. Wasima?
Yes.
Which letter would you like to share?
Wasima, on the first letter sent to Kaya, sent on the 26th of March. Can you just put it up there if you can, please?
Just hold on a second.
It on the attachment is written response.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
I'll get the letter.
You have the letter.
I can also share it with Sima.
Okay, if you can find it. I'm just checking here with mine. That one.
Right. Okay. Yes. If you move down. Yes. Okay. All right. If we look at this letter that was sent to us by the Commission on Restitution, they are saying the only outstanding claim now that they feel needs to be processed is the one for footpath, because that's the one that is still waiting the research from their offices. In their own opinion, the one for Soweto has not met the requirements of the Act. And I think because the closing date has long since passed, so then they therefore discarded that particular claim, and they are now concentrating mostly on the one for footpath. But Mr. Chair, if I can quickly come on this issue, these are some of the things that tend to, if I can use a loose word and say, irritate some of the claimants in these offices, because it is this kind of breakdown breakdown in communication that ends up us having petitions of this nature. Because you see now they are saying they are only dealing with footpath. They're not dealing with Soweto, because for them that's no longer now is no longer part of what they are dealing with. But the issue now is, did they inform fully Mr. Jacobs as to the reason why that one, the Soweto one, could not be assisted, and did they give him the help that he needed for him to put forward the claim again if there were documents that were still missing? That's why I was in my recommendation, I did highlight that it seems then what is needed here is a rapporteur who can rapporteur between the claimants and the commission, because the time is so long, so much so that a lot of information has just gone through the cracks. I don't know if I've answered it correctly for the honorable member, that one, the first one for Footpath and Soweto.
Member Philander, are you covered in terms of that response?
Chairperson, you must please guide me in a direction, because as a matter of principle, the documents also made mention of these submissions were made before the cutoff date, which means now we can't disregard Soweto just because of, or saying the time lapse or anything, because all submissions were made before the cutoff date. That is what was said within the documents. So, so also made mention of were there sufficient engagement with Mr. Jacobs and the claimants regarding as to what information exactly that is needed in order to process that specific claim, Chairperson. How will we determine that? And also the documents made mention of adjacent claims that were paid or were settled. So one would ask the question, why not Soweto? Were there sufficient engagement with these communities to now just simply disregard that claim, Chairperson?
Thank you. I see Member Mackenzie and then Member Kama.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I just wanted to, that the document is now not on the screen, that was up now, and Member Philander did gave, I think, the answer I was looking for. I just want to confirm, were all the claims in terms of the deadline, if you look at what because here he is referring to the cutoff date being 31st December 1998. As far as I can remember, there was a new cutoff date whilst legislature post that period. And what I wanted to find out, if this claim exclude that new cutoff date. And I'm struggling to use my phone now, it doesn't want to Google. But I do know there was a new cutoff date, and I think it was introduced during the term of former President Jacob Zuma, which would have been 2007, which would be 10 years after the initial land cutoff date of December 1998. I just want to check if this doesn't fall under that.
Okay, Member Kama.
Thank you, Chair. I also wanted to latch on the question of Member Philander, because, Chair, I think it's in the document where it says that the Commission was still waiting for a response from Mr. Jacobs, because I think there is some documentation that they wanted from him. And the understanding being one also that we can't read, because Soweto is being processed, and in that process then the commission establishes that it does not meet the requirements, but then advise that they must resubmit. Is that not should that not be looked at as one process, as it now going to be a new application? Thanks, Chair.
Yeah. Member Mackenzie, do I see your hand again?
I've just sent you a document, Chairperson, just to have a look at the dates. If this is not applicable to this, if you just have a look at your WhatsApp, I just want to get clarity on that. Thank you.
Perfect. I'll share that with the committee as well. Member Mr. Kwesa, do you want to respond to those three questions that were raised there?
Yes, Mr. Chair. For Mr. Jacobs, all his claims were made in 1998. So they were all on deadline, they were all on point. So for him, everything, he did meet the deadline for 1998. So all these claims from his case are for 1998. So that one is sorted. Everything was on time there. So it didn't fall on the next date, maybe that is being highlighted now. It was just 1998. But one of the members raised a point about the claimant, Mr. Jacobs, being asked to sometimes offer some information. In the response that we did receive from the commission, they sent, like I did say earlier, that they sent us a lot of information with letters and minutes dating back 2014. And on one of those minutes, dated 29 May 2019, there is a list there of things per claim that they requested Mr. Jacobs to respond with. For example, like the one member was saying that maybe he was asked to come back with some documents and he could not do that. So if he doesn't do that now, they gave him a deadline. So if he failed to meet that deadline, then somehow the claim would fall away or the claim would take backseat. And I did speak to Mr. Jacobs about it. That letter, Wasima, if you can check that letter on the 29th May 2019, on the attachments there from the commission, all these claims that were put forward, it's a claim at the top, and then at the bottom, it's what he needed to do. Exactly this letter, thank you. And most of the time you find that he never met most of the thing that he was asked to do here. So that also created a problem, a major problem for the commission, for them to assist him. And that's one of the things that we ask him to say, before you ask the WC people to assist you on this matter, did you meet all the requirements that the commission asked you to do? Because if he has not met these, then it will be difficult for anyone else to be able to assist him. And we found that on most of these, he did not give the information that was needed.
Members, are there any other questions or points of clarity that you'd like to obtain? Member Mackenzie, I see your hand.
Sorry, Chairperson, I'm just trying to open a specific document that was sent to us. Can I come back in the next 2-3 minutes, please, if you don't mind?
Sure, Member Philander.
Thank you, Chairperson. We also need to take note that Mr. Jacobs is actually acting on behalf of various claimants. Is there stated in the documents reasons provided as to why he could not provide those information? Because I can just imagine that he must now go back to that claimant, and I think I saw some sort of signature or a petition-like document where those claimants actually signed that they were not going to resubmit. Is there reasons stated within the documents why they would not resubmit?
Mr. Kwesa, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, Mr. Honorable Member, Mr. Jacobs was acting on behalf of a group of people, in fact, up to 50 people that he was working on behalf of. So you can imagine indeed that it was really a very hard task this for him. And I think in between all of that, some of the documents maybe, and some of the, like I'm saying, some of the communication just fell through because there were so many people that he was assisting in this particular case, and some of the people could not be found, and some of the people had even moved, because like I'm saying, the dates are so long. 1998 is 2020 now, and they're still fighting this issue. So a lot of the original documents that they had submitted maybe had got lost, and they had to go back and find some documents, and they could not find those documents. And that also was one of the reasons why some of the claims stalled.
Okay, Member Mackenzie, are you
Yes,
ready?
Chairperson. I've managed to find it. Just hang on a second. I just want to make sure that I got the right document open here. I've managed to find it. I just want to open again. Oh, here we go. Chairperson, if you look at the letter again, and I went back to the minutes of 2018 and then 2014, but more importantly, what Dr. Alexander says in the second paragraph, he says that the only outstanding claim is footpad, and the office is awaiting the final research report. And this is perhaps a question to Mr. Mkunyana. Did they send any further correspondence post this letter to indicate what is what does the final research report say? And I might have missed it. Did Mr. Jacobs say anything with regards to the claims that has been finalized and for Suweswa that was non-compliant? So there's two things. One is when the research report was finalized, and what was Mr. Jacobs' opinion on Sakram, Kalkarati, Dam, Roy Rankis, all those claims that as per the Land Claim Commission has been finalized. And then on Sowesia, what was Mr. Jacobs, now that they're saying it's non-compliant? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. So if you could answer that, and then also Member Kama's question around the status of the engagement with the Public Protector in the Western Cape.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding the research, and this is one of the issues that Mr. Jacobs was complaining about. The research is still ongoing. They have not come back to him regarding that particular research. So it's still as it was at that time. Nothing has changed. They're still busy with the research. No progress has happened in that particular case regarding the research. Regarding the finalization of some other claims, when I spoke to Mr. Jacobs, to me, he informed me that all the other claims that they put through have been finalized. It's only these two, the Sowesia one and the footpad one, that was still outstanding. The others, from what I gathered from him and from the letters from the commission as well, they've all been finalized in two phases that they were working on as the commission. Regarding the question about the public protector, Mr. Jacobs did go to the public protector, obviously, like I'm saying, because he felt aggrieved. He felt that the matter was not moving forward. And the public protector's office then sent a letter to the commission requesting further information. Then they responded back to the public protector. In the public protector, from what I gathered from Mr. Jacobs, he didn't seem to receive the information that he wanted. And that's the challenge that we normally find with lots of petitioners. They normally go to various offices because it's emotional. They want the matter resolved. And sometimes they do not find the information that supports them. They'll just leave that office and move to the next office. But from what we received from him, he never received an answer, or he never followed up from the public protector's office. It's only the commission responding to the public protector's office. I'm not sure if he did get the answer from the public protector's office to himself, but from what I gathered, he never really followed it up with them.
Okay.
What was the other question?
Member Philander. So I think you've answered them all. The last question that I asked was just reiterating Member Kama's question about the public protector.
Okay.
Member Philander and then Member Mackenzie.
Chairperson, thank you. Based on the reasons provided why Sowesia might not have been processed, Chairperson, upon our recommendations, I want us to consider, Chairperson, that the Sowesia claim be revived, Chairperson. Yes, the time has elapsed and a lot of time has gone by, but I believe those claimants have families as well. So I would really like us to recommend that the Sowesia claim be revived and that also the footpad claim be addressed as well, Chairperson.
Member Mackenzie.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I just wanted to, just on the letter that was sent to us, and thank you, Mr. Kailetu Muknyana, for sharing the details. what I can gather that Mr. Jacobs obviously would like the Soweto matter to be finalized, and one needs to get from Dr. Wayne Alexander what are the exact reasons thereto, and what one can do to make sure that, as Member Philander say, this matter is now reopened and potentially finalized. And then a timelines one would like from the restitution support team is to the research report, because this matter has been coming on for years now, and I can understand people die. I mean, we've seen it with District 6. People die 15, 20 years ago. The matters are still not resolved. Children are dealing with this matter. And then the last point is, I don't understand how Dr. Alexander can say in his last line, kindly refer to the attachment, and I trust this inquiry will be regarded as finalized. The matter is not finalized. There are two outstanding issues that need to be resolved. So I just don't understand his communication style to say the matter is finalized, because this matter is obviously not finalized. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Mackenzie. Members, are there any other questions before we move on? Did I see Member Philander?
Apologies, Chairperson, that was an old hand.
Okay. Members, any other questions? Member Kama?
No, none from me, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Members, from what I was listening now, one of these next steps would be to invite the Commission to our meeting and ask them to give us a detailed breakdown of the status of the two outstanding claims, as well as the reason for why the one claim was invalid, even though it was made by the deadline. And also perhaps if they could give us an overview of the current, the process for submitting land claims, taking into account the sort of next window that was opened 10 years after. I would also like to recommend that we invite Mr. Jacobs to that meeting as well, so that we've got everybody in the same conversation, because I suspect this complaint is being caught up in a letter writing competition, where people are writing letters to each other and it takes forever to respond. So it would have to be a detailed breakdown of the two outstanding claims and the steps that are still outstanding, and an update on where that research report is that's taken from 1998 to 2020 to complete. And then if they could also give us a breakdown of the other claims that have been processed and the timeline it took and the process involved, and also who all the recipients of that money was. And what I'm very interested in is also the extent of the land that's being claimed for, because if you look at the amounts that they are awarding, so awarding 650,000 Rand to 55 people, I'd really want to know what the value of this land is. So if it's ranging from 3 million to 2 million to 650,000, we need to just see then how the Commission makes those determinations. Member Kama?
Thank you, Chair. I think with your guidance, adding to the recommendations that you have made, I'm really interested to hear about the outcomes of the public protector, the engagement of Mr. Jacobs and the public protector, because this is a Chapter 9 institution that is established to support and defend democracy. So and I would want to get an understanding from their side as to what was the outcome of that process. Thanks, Chair. So I don't know whether it would be in a form of a presentation or what you can advise in that aspect. Thanks.
I think maybe what we should do is we should write to Mr. Jacobs when we invite him to the meeting and ask him to share with us any communication that he has from the public protector as well, so we can ascertain whether they've communicated with him, because we've only got communication from the Commission side. And we could perhaps also invite the public protector to share with us what their role has been in this process, to give us an understanding of where they fit into this process as well. Members, are there any other recommendations that we want to note for this petition? Member Kama, is that a new hand or is your hand still up from previously?
Sorry, Chair, it's from previously.
Okay. Member Philander?
Chairperson, just for my, we did make mention of both Sowisha and Footpath.
Yes, those are the two.
Okay, sure.
So just to recap, what we want is a detailed breakdown of all the steps that have been taken for these two outstanding, for Footpath and for Sowisha. And we want to understand where the process is at the moment, and also why the Sowisha one is disqualified. And then we also want the history of the other claims that have been paid out already. We want to know what the steps are that were involved there, as well as the amounts paid out, the extent of the land that was being claimed for, as well as who the beneficiaries were for that. And then we also want from Mr. Jacobs a reason or some guidance on why he hasn't responded to the Commission in terms of their request for information, as well as we want to ask him whether the Public Protector has been in touch with him in terms of the status of his complaint to the Western Cape Public Protector's Office. And then we will then consider, once we've got that information, whether we should also invite the Public Protector to ascertain what the Public Protector's role has been. And then we also want the Commission to give us an overview of how land claims are being processed and what that process is, and what the current status of the land claims process is, whether it's open, whether it's closed, etc., and what would disqualify these claims. Wasima, I'm not sure if you captured all of that.
Yes, Chair, I've captured all of that. There's just one thing that I need to add. You've made mention also about the value of the land. You want that also included?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'm very interested to see what this research project is that takes so many years to complete.
So I've got all of it.
Thank you. Members, are you happy for us to move on from this petition?
Yes, thank you,
now?
Chair.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
And thank you to the Public Education and Outreach Office as well for all the work that you've done on this. And we're sure to have you back as well. You are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. I know Ms. Fashir has to depart.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Hopefully next time we'll see you in the office.
Yes, certainly. Thank you so much.
Members, we're now moving on to the consideration of the draft minutes for the 20th of September 2019. Would you like me to share that on the screen, or do you have it in front of you?
Can you please share? Yes, thank you, Chair.
I've just shared it.
Thank you, Wasima. So members, we are now on page 1 of that minutes, and it's got the attendance there. Any additions or amendments on page 1? And this meeting dealt with the finalization of the petition for the Trauma Center for Survivors of Violence and Torture with Ms. Valdi van Reenen. And the second petition that we finalized was the Dennerhof Center in Verliesdorp. And we were still busy with the consideration for the petition for Power Town. So on page 2 there, we've got the resolutions. Any amendments or changes on page 2?
Chairperson,
Yes, member.
just a small typo there. I think it should be of violence, not if violence. I think it's point 2. Just a typo there.
So that's on page 1.
Yes. I think it's point 2. Yeah. Trauma Center for Survivors of Violence and Torture. Not
So it's,
if violence and torture.
so it's just to correct that word.
Yeah.
Okay. Members, are we happy to adopt the minutes? Can we have a proposer and a seconder for the adoption of the minutes for the 20th of September 2019?
I move for adoption, Chairperson, Wendy Philander.
Thank you, Member Kama. I see your hand.
Chair, I second the adoption of the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Philander and Member Kama. We then go on to our draft annual activity report for the Petitions Committee for 2019-2020 financial year. And Wasima is sharing that. So on page 1, we just have the members of the committee and the introduction. Are there any amendments or changes to page 1? Page 2. Page 3.
Chairperson?
Yes, Member Mackenzie?
Just it refers to August 2020. I presume it's a mistake. Should be August 2019.
Yes, it should be. May I have a proposer and a seconder for the annual report? Member Philander?
Propose for adoption, Chair.
Thank you. Seconded by Member Kama.
I'll second.
Thank you, Member Allen. Members, we're now going to the consideration and adoption of our draft quarterly report for July to December 2019. And I think Wasima is going to share that before she leaves the meeting. It says there Wasima's leaving. Okay, members, we're just going to wait for Wasima to get back into the meeting.
In that, Chair, can I greet Member Allen?
Please do.
Sorry, Chi, there's an issue here. I got kicked out.
Yeah, we noticed the team saying that Wasima is leaving.
I'm just going to bring up the quarterly report. It's being shared.
It seems Member Allen doesn't want to greet Member Kama.
I missed him too much. I must give him a proper call.
Members,
Okay.
we're now looking at the quarterly report on page 1. Are there any amendments to page 1? Page 2. Page 3. And then we've got the table of attendance on page 3 and page 4. Page 5. May we have a proposer and a seconder for the quarterly report? Anybody?
I propose that we adopt, Chair.
Thank you very much. Member Kama?
Thank you. I second the adoption, Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, I'm now going to ask Wasima to also share with you our draft committee program.
Sorry, 1 second. Just hold, it's not opening up.
No worries. While we do that, members, I wanted to just float an idea past you. Part of what we are supposed to do as a petitions committee is to promote the work of the petitions committee as well. And we haven't really had an opportunity to do that. What I'd like to propose is that we ask the research department to look into how petitions function in other parts of the world, and how they get people engaged with the petitions committee, and where some of those petitions committees are in parliaments in different parts of the world, and how we can learn from them. So sort of broad research on how petitions function in the rest of the world, and specifically how they engage people. And this is with the view of perhaps conducting a study tour somewhere in 2022 or 2021, whenever the COVID pandemic eases up. Noting this because we received a letter from the Queensland Provincial Parliament asking us to share information on how our petitions committee works as well. But we received that letter 6 months after they sent it, so we couldn't sort of adequately respond to them. So it would be really interesting to see whom we need to be forming relationships with. So that's the first thing. The other thing is I'd like members to come up with ideas for how we're going to promote the work of the petitions committee locally, bearing in mind that we are able to go out and share what the petitions committee is supposed to do with communities. We still have an outstanding trip to the Power Town community in Mossel Bay, which we need to get back onto our agenda as soon as we're allowed to travel and it's safe to conduct public meetings. But that's just something to think about. And the one is a resolution that I'd like to also add to our resolutions for today so that we can get some of that research done. Thank you, Wasima. We now have the draft program. So our next meeting would be the 14th of August, and hopefully the Commissioner for Land Claims in the Western Cape and Mr. Barry Jacobs will be able to join us for that. And we've also kept a slot for the 21st of September. And then we've got the review on the discussion pertaining to our Power Town petition, and we need to find a date to go and engage with the Power Town community because there's still a lot of outstanding information. But we've tentatively put there the fact-finding visit to Mossel Bay. And then we've also put a public education and outreach session with different communities. And then we need to then finalize the Power Town petition once we've returned from there. And then we've got some more public education and outreach opportunities. So members can think of which areas or which districts in the province we should be visiting. And then we'll be able to plot dates once we know it's safe to travel. But are we happy to adopt this draft program? And I'll ask members to submit input if they have it as well.
Yes, it's fine.
Thank you, Chair. I move that we adopt the program, noting what you have just said about us forwarding our inputs at another stage. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. And Member Philander then seconded that.
That's right.
Members, Are there any other outstanding issues or questions that we have before we close?
None, Chairperson.
Thank you. Wasima, do you need us to go over the recommendations again?
No, Chair, I've captured it and we've got the recording, so I can take it from there as well. I would just also like to alert the committees that September's meeting, we could bring Power Town up if it does allow us to travel to Power Town and then move it to the 21st. But it all depends on how the next month goes and if the committee decides to change its mind.
Okay,
Since
no,
that's an open slot.
No, that's perfect. If we're allowed to travel, I see the airport in George is now open, but we just need to look at whether we can have a meeting with social distancing rules, etc. Because I know many community halls and in municipalities are still closed. But members, are there anything else from your side?
Nothing else, Chairperson.
Thank you very much for your attention and for joining us. The meeting is thus adjourned, and have a good Tuesday afternoon.